The Silent Wisdom of Midnight. Introduction and Connection. Tonight, I invite you not just to a story, but to a quiet journey. A journey toward inner peace, toward forgotten wisdom, and toward that ancient, safe place hidden in the depths of your heart. Before we begin this journey together, I want to feel your presence. Where are you right now? Which country are you watching from? What time is it in your part of the world? Is it deep into the night, or perhaps early evening? And how are you feeling in this moment? Are you tired? Anxious? Peaceful? Or perhaps you simply need to rest, to let this endless rushing finally stop. Please share with me in the comments. Where are you watching from? What time is it? And how are you feeling right now? This small act of sharing makes my presence here with you more real. It reminds us that we are not alone. Because tonight, we are all under the same sky, breathing the same breath. And all of us are searching for that peace within. Now you can gently close your eyes. Or if you prefer, keep them softly focused on the screen. What matters is that you are comfortable. You don't need to do anything. Simply being here in this moment is enough. Let's take a deep breath together. Fill yourself with air. Expand your chest. Now slowly release it. Send out all your tension, all your thoughts with this breath. Once more. In and out. Beautiful. Now our story can begin. Part 1. The Garden of Silence. Long, long ago, in a forgotten corner of the world, there was a valley cradled by tall mountains. This valley was so remote that no trade route passed through it. It was so quiet that you could hear the whisper of the wind, the song of the leaves, and the beating of your own heart. In this valley stood a monastery, built of stone, holding centuries of wisdom within its walls. The monks who lived here were few in number, but each carried a deep tranquility in their eyes. They lived simply, waking with the sun, tending their garden, meditating in silence, and sleeping when darkness fell. Among these monks was a young woman named Kiran. She had arrived at the monastery 3 years ago, her heart heavy with the weight of the world she had left behind. She had been a merchant in a great city, always rushing, always planning, always worried about the next deal, the next profit, the next problem to solve. But one day, standing in her crowded shop, surrounded by silks and spices and the constant noise of bargaining, she had felt something break inside her. Not in a painful way, but like a dam finally giving way. She realized she couldn't remember the last time she had simply stopped. The last time she had felt the sun on her face without thinking about what needed to be done next. So she closed her shop, gave away most of her possessions, and walked. For weeks she walked, following mountain paths and river valleys, until she found this hidden monastery. The head monk, an ancient man named Tenzin with eyes like deep pools of still water, had simply nodded when she asked to stay. "The mountain calls those who need to listen," he had said. For 3 years, Kiran had practiced. She meditated. She worked in the garden. She learned to be still. But something still eluded her. The other monks seemed to carry a peace that went deeper than anything she could access. She could be calm on the surface, but underneath, her mind was still a restless ocean, churning with thoughts, memories, and a subtle anxiety she couldn't name. One evening, after the day's final meditation, Kiran approached Master Tenzin. The old monk was sitting in the courtyard, watching the first stars appear in the darkening sky. "Master," she said, bowing respectfully, "I have been here 3 years. I practice diligently. I follow all the teachings. But I still don't have what you have. I still don't have that deep peace I see in your eyes. What am I doing wrong?" Master Tenzin was quiet for a long moment, his gaze still on the stars. Finally, he spoke, his voice soft as falling snow. "Tell me, Kiran. In the garden, we have many plants. Some grow quickly, sprouting and flowering within weeks. Others take years to show even a single leaf above the ground. Are the slow ones doing something wrong?" Kiran considered this. "No, Master. They're just different. And yet, when the slow ones finally bloom, their flowers are often the most beautiful, their roots the deepest." He turned to look at her. "You're trying very hard to achieve peace, aren't you?" "Yes," she admitted. "I practice every day. I try to empty my mind, to be present, to let go." "Stop," he said gently. "Listen to yourself." I try. Do you see? You're still the merchant, still working toward the next deal. But peace is not a transaction, Kiran. It cannot be earned or achieved. It can only be allowed." Kiran felt frustration rising in her chest. "But how? How do I allow it?" Master Tenzin smiled. "I'm going to give you a task. Tomorrow, you will not meditate. You will not work in the garden. You will not study the teachings. Instead, You will go to the old maple tree by the river. You will sit beneath it from sunrise to sunset. And you will do absolutely nothing. Nothing. Kieran was confused. Nothing. If you feel like meditating, don't. If you want to contemplate a teaching, don't. If your mind wants to plan or analyze or fix, let it, but don't engage with it. Just sit. Just be. Can you do this? Kieran bowed. Yes, master. But inside, she felt a flutter of anxiety. Doing nothing felt wrong. Wasteful. Surely there must be some technique, some method, some practice that would help. Nevertheless, she had agreed. Part 2. The Day of Nothing. The next morning, Kieran woke with the dawn as always. She could hear the other monks beginning their morning meditation in the hall. Part of her wanted to join them, but she had made a promise. She walked through the quiet monastery grounds to the old maple tree by the river. It was a magnificent tree, ancient and gnarled, its branches spreading wide like the arms of a grandmother welcoming you home. The river flowing nearby was gentle here, creating a soft, constant music. Kieran sat down beneath the tree, crossed her legs, and straightened her back. Then she realized she was sitting in meditation posture. Master Tenzin had said not to meditate. Feeling slightly foolish, she relaxed, leaning back against the trunk of the tree. Now what? The sun was just beginning to paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. Birds were waking up, beginning their morning songs. The river whispered its eternal rhythm. Kieran's mind, free from the structure of meditation practice, immediately began to fill with thoughts. She should be meditating. She was wasting time. What was the point of this? Maybe she should at least practice mindfulness of the breath while she sat here. But no, Master Tenzin had been clear. Do nothing. So she sat, and her mind churned. It replayed conversations from years ago. It worried about whether she was doing this exercise correctly. It judged itself for worrying about doing the exercise correctly. It noticed a bird and immediately began naming its species. It wondered what was for lunch. It remembered a customer who had cheated her 5 years ago and felt a flash of old anger. Kieran watched all of this with a sense of dismay. Her mind was like a wild horse that had been temporarily corralled but now, set free, was galloping everywhere at once. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher. The day grew warm. At some point, Kieran noticed she was hungry. Then she noticed she was noticing she was hungry. Then she noticed she was noticing that she was noticing. Her mind was still working, still trying to meditate, still trying to be mindful even when explicitly told not to. She sighed a deep, exhausted sigh. And in that moment of complete surrender, something shifted. She stopped trying to control her thoughts. She stopped judging them as good or bad, spiritual or unspiritual. She just let them be, like clouds drifting across a sky. Her mind could do whatever it wanted. It wasn't her job to manage it anymore. The afternoon sun filtered through the maple leaves, creating patterns of light and shadow on the ground. Kieran found herself simply watching these patterns, not trying to be mindful of them, not using them as a meditation object, just seeing them, the way a child might, with simple, uncomplicated interest. A butterfly landed on a nearby flower. It was blue and black, its wings opening and closing slowly. Kieran watched it. There was no thought about impermanence, no Buddhist teaching arising in her mind. Just the butterfly. Just this moment. The river continued its eternal song. Time seemed to lose its usual quality. Kieran wasn't sure anymore if minutes or hours had passed. It didn't matter. There was nowhere to go, nothing to achieve. For the first time in perhaps her entire life, she wasn't moving toward anything. She was simply here. As the sun began to descend toward the mountains, painting the sky in oranges and purples, Kieran realized something profound. She felt peaceful. Not because she had achieved peace through meditation or practice or effort, but because she had stopped fighting. She had stopped trying to be peaceful. And in that stopping, peace had simply been there. It had always been there. She had just been too busy reaching for it to notice it was already held within her. Tears began to flow down her cheeks. Not tears of sadness, but of relief. Like someone who had been carrying a heavy burden for so long they'd forgotten it was there, and had finally set it down. She sat as the stars began to appear, one by one, in the darkening sky. The same stars Master Tenzin had been watching the night before. And she understood now what she had seen in his eyes. Not something he had gained, but something he had never lost. The peace that was always there when you stopped chasing it. Part 3. The Lesson of the Maple. When Kieran returned to the monastery that night, she found Master Tenzin sitting in his usual spot in the courtyard. He looked at her face, and a warm smile spread across his own. "Ah," he said simply. "You understand now." Kiran bowed deeply. "Thank you, Master. I spent the whole day trying to do nothing, and I realize now I've spent 3 years trying to do everything. I was working so hard to achieve peace that I couldn't see it was already here." "Yes," Tenzin nodded. "This is the great paradox. We must practice, yes. Meditation, mindfulness, ethical living, all these are important. They are like tending a garden, creating the conditions for flowers to bloom. But the blooming itself? That cannot be forced. It happens in its own time, when we finally stop demanding it and simply allow it." He gestured to the empty space beside him, and Kiran sat down. "Let me tell you something," Tenzin continued, his voice soft in the night air. "When I was young, perhaps even younger than you are now, I was much like you. I came to my master full of determination. I was going to become enlightened. I was going to achieve the highest states of meditation. I practiced with such fierce intensity that I made myself ill." Kiran was surprised. She had always imagined Master Tenzin as naturally peaceful, as if he had been born this way. "My master watched me burning myself out," Tenzin continued. "And one day he took me to a maple tree, perhaps the grandmother of the very tree you sat under today. He pointed to it and asked me, 'How does this tree grow? Does it strain and effort and try? Does it set goals for how many inches to grow each week? Does it compare itself to other trees?' 'No,' I said. 'It just grows.' 'Exactly,' my master replied. 'It grows because growing is its nature. It doesn't have to try to be a tree. It simply is a tree, and everything else follows naturally. Your Buddha nature is like this. You don't have to achieve it or earn it. You already are it. Your only task is to stop pretending you're not." Tenzin looked at Kiran with great kindness. "All your practices, all your efforts, they're not wrong. They're necessary, but they're preparation, not the goal itself. They're the tending of the garden. But the flower blooms when it's ready, not when you demand it." Kiran absorbed these words, feeling their truth settle into her bones. "What do I do now?" she asked quietly. "Now," Tenzin chuckled softly. "Now you continue to practice, but differently. Not reaching for something you don't have, but relaxing into what you've always been. Meditate, but not to become peaceful. Meditate to recognize the peace that's already here. Work in the garden, but not to earn merit. Work because the garden needs tending, and tending it is its own reward. Live each moment fully, not as a means to a better future moment, but as an end in itself." He paused, looking up at the stars. "The moment you stop trying to get somewhere, you discover you're already home." Part 4, The Visitor. Weeks passed. Kiran found that something fundamental had shifted in her practice. She still meditated every morning, still worked in the garden, still followed the rhythm of monastery life. But the quality of it all had changed. She was no longer pushing the river, trying to make it flow faster. She was simply flowing with it. Other monks began to notice. There was a lightness about her now, a ease that hadn't been there before. One autumn morning, a visitor arrived at the monastery. This was rare, as few people knew of its existence, and fewer still could find the hidden path through the mountains. But here was a man, middle-aged, well-dressed, clearly exhausted from his journey. Master Tenzin welcomed him, as was the custom, and offered him food and rest. The man ate gratefully, but there was an intensity in his eyes, a desperation that Kiran recognized. She had carried that same look when she first arrived. After the meal, the man bowed to Master Tenzin. "Forgive my directness, honored master, but I haven't traveled all this way for pleasantries. I'm a successful man in the world below. I have wealth, status, a beautiful family. But I'm miserable. I can't sleep. My mind never stops. I've tried everything, every therapy, every technique, every guru who promised peace. Nothing works. I heard rumors of this place, of a master who truly understands. Can you help me?" Tenzin looked at him with compassion. "I can try. But first, tell me, what are you willing to give up to find this peace?" The man didn't hesitate. "Anything. Everything. I'll give away my wealth, leave my position, abandon my comfortable life. Just tell me what to do." Tenzin shook his head gently. "That's not what I asked. I didn't ask what you're willing to give up externally. I asked what you're willing to give up internally." The man looked confused. I don't understand. Are you willing to give up the idea that you can control your peace?" Tenzin asked. "Are you willing to give up the effort of searching for it? Are you willing to give up the belief that you're broken and need fixing?" The man's face showed his struggle with these questions. But if I don't search for peace, how will I find it? If I don't try to fix what's wrong with me, how will I get better? Kieran, who had been sitting quietly nearby, spoke up. May I tell him my story, Master? Tenzin nodded. Kieran turned to the visitor. 3 years ago, I was like you. I came here desperate for peace, willing to do anything to achieve it. And for 3 years, I practiced intensely, trying to force myself to become peaceful. It didn't work. The harder I tried, the more peace eluded me. The man leaned forward, listening intently. Then Master Tenzin gave me the strangest instruction, Kieran continued. He told me to do nothing, to sit under a tree all day and do absolutely nothing. No meditation, no practice, no techniques. Just sit. And did it work? The man asked eagerly. Did doing nothing give you peace? Kieran smiled. That's exactly the wrong question. Doing nothing didn't give me anything. It helped me realize I was looking in the wrong direction. I was trying to find peace somewhere in the future, as a reward for my efforts. But peace was here all along. It's not something you achieve. It's something you recognize was always present. The man looked skeptical. That sounds too simple. Too easy. Oh, it's not easy, Kieran laughed. It's the hardest thing in the world, actually, because it means giving up the one thing we're all addicted to. The belief that we're in control, that we can make things happen through our will and effort. It means surrendering that. And surrender feels like death to the ego. Master Tenzin nodded approvingly. You've learned well, Kieran. Yes, our friend here must understand. The peace you're seeking is not absent. You're simply looking away from it. Your mind is like a man frantically searching everywhere for his glasses while they're sitting on his head the whole time. The visitor sat in silence, absorbing this. Finally, he spoke, his voice small. I don't know how to stop searching. Searching is all I know. I understand, Tenzin said gently. This is why practice is necessary. Not to create something new, but to undo your habit of seeking. We have a guest room. Stay with us for a while. Practice with us. But practice not to get somewhere, but to rest where you already are. The man bowed, tears in his eyes. Thank you. I'll try. No, Tenzin said with a soft smile. Don't try. Just stay. Just be. Let the monastery hold you for a while. Let life show you what you've been overlooking. Part 5. The teaching continues. The visitor, whose name was Marcus, stayed at the monastery. In the beginning, he struggled immensely. His mind was so accustomed to constant activity, to planning and achieving and controlling, that the simple life of the monastery felt like torture. He would sit in meditation and last only minutes before his mind erupted with thoughts about his business, his family, his obligations. He would work in the garden and spend the whole time thinking about how gardening might be a metaphor for personal growth, trying to extract some lesson rather than simply hoeing the soil. Kieran watched him with compassion, seeing her own former self reflected in his struggle. One day, while they were both pulling weeds in the vegetable garden, Marcus suddenly threw down his tools in frustration. I can't do this, he said, his voice tight. I've been here 2 weeks and I feel worse than when I arrived. My mind is more chaotic than ever. I'm failing at this too, just like I fail at everything else that matters. Kieran sat back on her heels, looking at him thoughtfully. Do you know what's growing here? She asked, gesturing to the bed they were weeding. Marcus looked confused by the question. Carrots. Yes, carrots. And do you know how long it takes a carrot to grow? I don't know. A few weeks. About 3 months, Kieran said. 3 months from seed to harvest. And for most of that time, you can't see anything happening. The carrot is growing underground, in the dark, completely hidden. If you dug it up after 2 weeks to check on its progress, you'd kill it. She pulled a weed gently from the soil. Your peace is growing underground right now, Marcus. You can't see it yet, but the fact that you're feeling worse might actually be a sign of progress. How can feeling worse be progress? Marcus asked bitterly. Because for the first time, you're not distracting yourself from what you're feeling. You're not drowning it in work, in entertainment, in constant doing. You're finally sitting still enough to feel what's been there all along. The chaos you're experiencing now? It was always there. You were just running too fast to notice it. Marcus sat down heavily on the ground. So I'm supposed to just endure this? Wait for it to get better. Not endure, Kieran corrected gently. Allow. There's a difference. Enduring means gritting your teeth and pushing through, waiting for it to end. Allowing means letting the feelings be there without fighting them. The chaos isn't your enemy, Marcus. Your resistance to the chaos is what creates suffering. She smiled at him. Master Tenzin taught me something. He said that our feelings are like children. If you ignore them, they scream louder. If you push them away, they cling harder. But if you simply acknowledge them, sit with them, let them exist, they naturally calm down. Not because you made them calm down, but because that's their nature when they're not being fought. Marcus looked at her, and for the first time, something in his face softened. I don't know if I can do this. You don't have to know, Kieran said. You just have to stop knowing. Stop figuring it out. Stop trying to control it. Just be here, right now, pulling weeds. Can you do that? Just this moment. Marcus took a breath. Then another. Just this moment, he repeated quietly. Okay, I can do that. They returned to their weeding in silence. And for just a few minutes, Marcus wasn't trying to get anywhere. He was just there, hands in the soil, the sun warm on his back, alive in the present moment. It was a small breakthrough, but it was a beginning. Part 6, the storm. One night, a great storm came to the mountains. Wind howled through the valley, shaking the monastery walls. Rain fell in sheets, and lightning illuminated the sky in brilliant, brief flashes. Kieran loved storms. She found them thrilling, a reminder of nature's raw power. But that night, she heard a sound from the guest quarters, a sound of distress. She found Marcus curled in his bed, shaking, his breath coming in short gasps. He was having a panic attack. "Marcus," she said gently, sitting beside him. "Breathe with me. In and out." He tried, but his breath kept catching in his throat. "I'm sorry," he gasped. "I don't know why, the storm. It's stupid. I'm being stupid." "You're not stupid," Kieran said firmly. "What you're experiencing is real. But I want you to try something. Instead of judging the panic, instead of trying to make it stop, can you just feel it? Where is it in your body?" Marcus pressed a hand to his chest. "Here. It's like a tightness, like I can't breathe." "Good. Feel that tightness. Don't try to fix it. Just notice it. What else do you feel?" "My heart," he said. "It's racing. And my hands are shaking." "Okay. Just notice those sensations. You don't have to change them. Just be with them." Another crack of thunder rolled across the valley, and Marcus flinched. "The thunder scared you," Kieran observed. "That's okay. Fear is okay. Let it be there. You're safe here. The monastery has stood through thousands of storms. You're not in danger. But the fear doesn't know that. The fear is just doing its job, trying to protect you. Can you thank it for trying to keep you safe, even though you don't need that protection right now?" Marcus looked at her like she was crazy, but then something shifted in his expression. He closed his eyes, and very quietly, almost inaudibly, he whispered, "Thank you, fear. You're trying to help." To his surprise, the tightness in his chest began to ease. Not completely, but noticeably. "What happened?" he asked, wonder in his voice. "You stopped fighting it," Kieran explained. "Fighting fear creates tension, and tension creates more fear. It's a cycle. But when you acknowledge the fear, when you allow it to be there, the cycle breaks. The fear can pass through you naturally instead of getting stuck." They sat together as the storm raged outside, and Marcus practiced simply being with his sensations, not trying to change them, not judging them. Sometimes the panic rose, and sometimes it fell. But he was learning to let it move without being swept away by it. By the time the storm passed and dawn began to lighten the sky, something in Marcus had shifted. He looked exhausted, but also somehow more present than Kieran had ever seen him. "I've had panic attacks for years," he said quietly. "I've tried medication, therapy, everything. Nothing worked because I was always trying to make them stop. I never thought to just let them be." "Everything changes," Kieran said, "including panic. When you stop trying to control it, it loses its power over you. This is the essence of all the teachings here. Stop fighting reality. Stop resisting what is. And in that acceptance, find freedom." Part 7, the departure. Marcus stayed at the monastery for 3 months. Slowly, gradually, the frantic energy that had driven him for so long began to settle. He learned to work in the garden without his mind spinning with metaphors and meanings. He learned to meditate not to achieve some special state, but simply to sit. He learned that peace wasn't a destination, but a way of being with whatever was arising in each moment. And then one morning, he came to Master Tenzin with an announcement. "I need to go back," he said. "Not because I'm running away this time, but because I'm ready. I have a family. I have responsibilities. I can't stay here forever." Tenzin nodded, unsurprised. The monastery is not meant to be a permanent escape. It's a training ground. You come here to learn, and then you return to the world to practice what you've learned in the midst of life's challenges. That's where the real practice happens. "I'm afraid," Marcus admitted. afraid that when I go back to my busy life, I'll lose what I've found here. You will, Tenzin said simply. Marcus looked shocked. What? You'll lose it many times, Tenzin continued with a gentle smile. You'll get caught up in stress, in worry, in old patterns. You'll forget to breathe. You'll forget to pause. You'll forget that peace is always available. And then eventually you'll remember. And you'll come back to it. And then you'll forget again. This is the practice. Not achieving a permanent state of peace, but learning to return to peace more and more quickly each time you wander away from it. He placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. The monastery is always here, not just this physical place, but the monastery within you. The quiet center you've discovered. You can return to it anytime, anywhere. In the middle of a business meeting. In traffic. During an argument. All you have to do is pause, take a breath, and remember, this moment is enough. You are enough. Peace is here. Marcus bowed deeply, tears streaming down his face. Thank you, Master. Thank you for everything. On the day of his departure, the whole monastery gathered to see him off. Kiran walked with him to the edge of the valley, to the place where the hidden path began its descent into the world below. I'll never forget this place, Marcus said, looking back at the monastery nestled among the mountains. I'll never forget what you taught me. Don't try to hold on to it too tightly, Kiran advised. That would be another form of grasping. Just let the teachings live through you. Let them inform how you meet each moment. That's enough. They embraced, and Marcus began his journey down the mountain. Kiran watched him go, feeling a bittersweet mix of emotions. She was happy for him, for the transformation she had witnessed. But she also knew the difficulty of maintaining practice in the midst of the world's chaos. When she returned to the monastery, she found Master Tenzin in the courtyard. Do you think he'll be okay? She asked. Who knows? Tenzin replied cheerfully. Life will test him. He'll struggle. But he has the tools now. He knows the way home. Whether he uses them is up to him. He looked at Kiran with a knowing expression. And what about you? How much longer will you stay here? Kiran was surprised by the question. I haven't thought about leaving. I'm happy here. I know you are, Tenzin said. But remember what I told Marcus. The monastery is a training ground, not a hiding place. You came here to learn, and you have learned. Perhaps it's time for you to carry these teachings back into the world as well. Kiran felt a flutter of anxiety at the thought. But I'm still learning. I'm not ready to teach anyone. You don't have to teach, Tenzin said. You just have to live what you've learned. That alone is teaching. The way you meet each moment, the way you treat others, the way you hold yourself in difficulty, that's the real teaching. Not words, but presence. He smiled at her. Think about it. There's no rush. But don't mistake comfort for completion. The oak tree doesn't grow by staying sheltered in the greenhouse. Part 8. Return. 6 months later, Kiran stood at the edge of the valley once more, a small pack on her back. She was leaving the monastery, not in desperation as she had arrived, but in peace. The night before, Master Tenzin had given her his final teaching. You asked me once how to allow peace, he had said, and I sent you to sit under a tree. Do you remember what you learned that day? I learned that peace was already there, Kiran answered, that I just had to stop chasing it. Yes, and now I'll tell you the deepest secret. Peace is not just already there when you stop chasing it. Peace is what you are. It's not a state you enter. It's your fundamental nature. All the agitation, all the suffering, all the chaos, these are like waves on the surface of the ocean. But you are the ocean itself, deep and still and infinite. He had placed his hand over her heart. This is what you must remember when you return to the world. Not as a belief, but as a direct knowing. When life becomes difficult, when you feel lost or overwhelmed, come back to this knowing. You are not the waves. You are the ocean. Nothing can truly disturb you because you are the space in which all disturbance arises and passes. Now, walking down the mountain path, Kiran carried these words with her. She was returning to the city, not to reopen her shop, but to offer what she had learned in whatever way felt right. Maybe she would teach meditation. Maybe she would simply work a simple job and live with mindful presence. She didn't know yet, and that was okay. The path was steep and rocky, but she moved with sure steps. Birds sang in the trees. A stream bubbled beside the path. And in her chest, that quiet presence she had discovered under the maple tree remained steady, a small flame that no wind could extinguish. Part 9. The world below. The city was overwhelming at first. The noise, the crowds, the constant rush of people moving from place to place with such urgency. Kieran felt the old anxiety trying to resurface, the instinct to join the rushing, to speed up, to get somewhere. But she paused, took a breath, and remembered she was already home. There was nowhere to get to. She found a small apartment on a quiet street. She got a job at a bookstore, a simple position that allowed her to interact with people without the pressure of her old merchant life. And she lived quietly, practicing what she had learned. At first, no one noticed anything special about her. She was just another employee, shelving books and helping customers. But gradually, people began to seek her out. There was something about her presence that made people feel safe, seen, heard. A stressed businessman came in looking for a book on productivity. Kieran helped him find what he was looking for, but as he was leaving, he paused. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "You seem really calm. Like genuinely calm, not fake calm. How do you do it? My life is chaos. I'm constantly stressed. Is there a secret?" Kieran smiled. "The secret is there's no secret. You're looking for some technique, some method, something you can do to achieve calm. But calm isn't achieved. It's allowed. It's already here, underneath all the chaos." The man looked skeptical. "That doesn't help me. I need to know what to do." "Okay," Kieran said. "Here's what to do. Right now, take one breath. Just one conscious breath. Feel the air coming in, feel it going out. Can you do that?" The man took a breath, looking slightly self-conscious. "Good," Kieran continued. "Now ask yourself, in this exact moment, right now, is anything wrong?" The man paused, thinking. "Well, no, not right now, in this second. But I have a meeting in an hour that I'm stressed about, and—" "Not in an hour," Kieran interrupted gently. "Right now, in this moment. Is anything actually wrong?" "No," the man admitted. "Most of our stress is about future moments that haven't happened yet, or past moments that are already over. But we only ever live in this moment. And usually in this moment, things are okay. Not perfect, but okay. When you remember this, when you come back to now, stress naturally decreases." The man stood there, processing. "That's surprisingly simple." "Simple, yes. But not easy," Kieran acknowledged. "Because the mind is trained to worry about the future and regret the past. It takes practice to keep bringing it back to now. But that's the practice. That's all it is." The man left thoughtfully. And he came back the next week, and the week after that, not always to buy books, but sometimes just to talk, to remember to breathe, to be reminded that this moment was enough. Others came,